Last time I saw you guys was at History. What a show! What a great show that
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
with,
absolutely.
with
No,
Beast in Black.
I'm a big fan of Canada. I've been going to Canada for a long, long time.
Well, Canada welcomes you with open arms anytime you want to come.
That's
Well,
very
on
kind.
behalf of Canada, I want to welcome you and everyone to this wonderful country of ours. We're a very welcoming people.
You are. There's no doubt about it. I think it's, uh, it's a lot to do with the climate and the geology as well.
Yes, perhaps I think there might be some truth to that take. I think there is some truth to that take. But Troy, we're here today not to talk about Canada, but to talk about Nightwish, the latest record that you guys have released. First of all, let me say thank you for taking the time to chat with me about the band and about the
Very
album.
well.
And I want to ask you a question that for me it's kind of intriguing because I feel like this is a much different album than any of the albums that not only the band has released, but that you've been a part of. And I want you to let me know when you look at this album and you look back at the process of creating the record, the thought process, and then the final product. Where does this album stand for you amongst all the other Nightwish records that you participated with?
Yeah, it's again, I think Pedro, if we approach it from the word evolution, if we approach Yesterwynde, the new album, as a third part in the trilogy, if you care to look at it like that, to me it was inevitable that it would end up sounding like this because there is a curiosity to this Yesterwynde that doesn't exist in other albums. For me, there's it's enigmatic. There are interesting things hidden in it, in the soundscape. This might be a lot to do with the way the thing's orchestrated and the way the thing is mixed as well. But it's very to me, it's the most I would say richly coloured of the Nightwish of the last five Nightwish albums, most richly coloured. I think it's very Nightwish, you know, and it continues the traditions of Nightwish. But to me, it feels more cohesive in the orchestra. The orchestra is very integral to the album, even more than others. You know, it's very easy to employ an orchestra and use them as an accompaniment, whereas for Yesterwine, they are integral to the sound. You can hear everything in there. And I think it's a lot to do with the orchestrations done by James. But how did you feel about
Well,
the
I was gonna tell you two things. First of all, I wasn't a fan of the singles, but when
right?
I listened to the album, I was like, wow, these don't even sound like the singles. So to me, it's a record that has to be digested as a record. Listening to the singles does not paint the full picture of what the album provides as an overall experience of going from that first song to the last song. And the
Exactly, Pedro. Exactly, and you've hit it there because it's context.
Ex- exactly. Like for example, it's an album that for me the other aspect that I took from it was when I was listening to it, the sound is almost more important than the lyrics or the vocal performance itself. They are there to enhance something much larger than just singing. They're
Yeah, yeah.
we always say that vocalists that's their instrument and the vocals are another instrument. I don't think it's ever been as true as on this record, where the vocals really are just another instrument that's placed in the mix because it's more about the sound experience and even the sound of the voice and what impact does that have and what's your takeaway from the record.
You said it. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly the way we feel about it. That's how it was mixed. You see, it's very easy to it's very easy to in the world of rock and metal or folk or jazz or anything to arrange music for one particular element, for one aspect, generally the vocalist. Now, the vocalist is critical, of course, but if in opera, the vocalist is critical, but so is the orchestra. You know, the orchestrations are absolutely vital. Now, um, I think that this is some of Flaw's most phenomenal stuff. Performances are mind-blowing to me on this album. And I think their performances are amplified by the mix, in my personal opinion, because as you pointed out, the she's there in it. She's inside the orchestra rather than sat on top of the
Yeah.
orchestra. So therefore, all of the elements of the orchestra can be heard like it's one massive, massive forest of expression and sound. So you've got Floor doing a stratospheric thing right in the center. But also you can hear clarinets and you can hear a piccolo part. You can hear exactly what the violas and the cellos are doing. And the guitars are ferocious. The drums are just insane.
Yeah, the drums are super heavy.
Everything is firing all together. And there's a wonderful balance for me to the thing. Now, I understand that people would might want to hear Floor full on foghorn loud on top of everything and right in your face. But that's not what was trying to be achieved with this. And as you've no doubt experienced and discovered, Pedro, the rest of the album, within context, she's perfectly audible. You know, in some of the slower songs and the quieter songs, she's right there, which is where she should be. You know, this intimacy. But there's no intimacy in something like Ocean of Strange Islands because it's a vast soundscape. You can't, I think it would be absurd to try and be intimate in that. You know, it's such a ferocious sound, a tidal wave of sound.
And it's funny that you mentioned that song because when we did the reaction on the channel, I wasn't, unlike my son. It's always nice when you have two people because we have different perspectives and different opinions. He was a big fan of the orchestration piece at the end of the track, and I wasn't. And we went back and forth on why he thought it was great and why I thought it wasn't good. And then when I'm listening to the record, I almost not even noticed it as being
Yeah,
part of that song. It almost became like an interlude into the experience
yeah,
that then develops into the next track. And it just goes to show you that when you listen to the record, in the context of the record itself, because that was another question that I was asked is like, how is the mix on Floor's voice? And I said, well, it depends on the song because each song has a different meaning within the record.
precisely.
It's like watching a movie. The acting at the beginning of the movie is not going to be the same acting at the end of the movie. You got ebbs and flows, right?
Precisely. That's exactly it, and that's what music to be listened to be deeply felt and explored and experienced on a deeper level than just throwaway pop music or music that's shallow for entertainment reasons only. Now, don't get me wrong, I love music for entertainment. You know, I will dance around to John Bon Jovi or Cannibal Corpse. You know, or ABBA. I love it all. I love it all. But there is a different thing going on. You see, there is music for entertainment, but there's also music for self-discovery. And this is music for self-discovery because we know this because we're experiencing it as we go through it. You know, it's not music to do the hoovering up with. You don't get your Dyson out to it, you know, and you don't do that. Whereas you can have a really nice bottle of wine with it. I recommend that, Pedro. I'll give that a go.
Yeah,
That
I, th
works.
I think that would work way better than the Dyson, that's for sure.
It will. It
When you
will.
when you look at the work that you guys have done, the mind of Thomas in terms of how he foresees music, and you look at what you guys achieved with this record, is he still throwing curveballs at you after all these years? Does he still surprise you after all these years?
Yeah, he certainly does. He's very, 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 very naughty. That's what he is. That's what he is. I mean, sometimes you say to him, "Hang on a minute, no, that can't be done." And he goes, "Oh, come on, of course it can." You go, "But and he goes, "No, come on, it can be done." And sure enough, he's always right. It can. So when you think, that's the wonderful thing about dear old Thomas is that he he's he's wonderfully benign, you know, with his approach to giving his songs out into the band. He's very open. You know, it's easy for people to speculate and assume that he's some kind of taskmaster who wants everything the way he wants it all the time. He's not that at all. You know, he's very, very open, and stuff like that just doesn't concern him. But when he's coming at me with outrageous key changes, I'm going, well, they can, and he goes, oh, come on, you can do it. But anyhow, it does. It works. It works in general.
When you look at the expectation, specifically the expectation that comes in from the fan base, you guys have a rabid fan base. I experience that fan base firsthand every time we check out one of your videos. I take the brunt of it if I'm not very pleased with something, I take the brunt of it. So considering that fan base, do you feel that sometimes that fan base tries to stifle you guys, or are you a little bit more isolated within a bubble of what do you want to do as creators that you kind of zone everything out?
Yeah, it's the latter. I don't engage with any of that really. I mean, it's very beautiful when people come up to me and tell me that the music has touched them on a deeper level than going around the house with a Dyson. I love that, and the fans are on the whole beautiful. The more malignant types who aren't very nice seem to dwell in a horrendous corner of the internet, which is chat rooms and comments. But I avoid those now. This is something I learned from Thomas. Actually, just avoid those places at all costs. Otherwise, it's the end. It's Marlon Brando's last words in the film Apocalypse Now. It's the horror, the horror. So I avoid that because Pedro, you can't please everyone, and everyone has different attitudes. I feel for you getting fatwas from the Nightwish community, though. That's not much fun. I mean, I've had fatwas put on me as well, so I'm with you.
Yeah. I feel your pain, and I'm sure you feel mine. I think you have to take it in stride, and
You
I'm
do.
not, and I'm not the kind of person. Listen, on our channel, I wouldn't say negative, but we were very critical of the singles. And then when I heard the album, and the first thing I did was I took it to social media and I said, okay, I bow down and I apologize for everything that I've said up until this point, because now I see what the final product is and I can see the vision coming to light. And that kind of begged another question: is it difficult for you guys, specifically for this record, to pick singles? Because every song paints a different picture.
Absolutely. By the way, I do admire your honesty on that. That you can. What it tells me is that you go deeply into music and you love music. So I admire your honesty on that. With the second part of what you just asked, the choice of singles is you just never know what's going to happen. Sometimes you think we should not have released that as the first single, but sometimes you think maybe we should have took the third and put that first, or that you've just got to ride with it. But I've always, even before I joined Nightwish back in 2007 with Dark Passion Play, I remember when their first single they released was a ballad, called Eva. And it was really, really quiet and sensitive. And I thought, hell's bells, that's brave. How wonderful is that? And I thought, I really like this bunch, that they're not afraid to do that. And that fearlessness has carried on all the way through our recent career. I've been involved since 2007, and I can tell you in all honesty, that nothing affects our direction. Nothing affects what makes us feel excited about music. Nothing some guy sat in his underpants tapping away on a laptop in Seattle is going to change the way we approach music. It's something that's deeply ingrained in us. The move forward, that constant strive to do something new and different, but retain the power and the integrity, really, and the authenticity of what Nightwish really is. That I think makes what we do quite unique in this day and age. In this vapid environment, commercial environment we're in.
And I think that makes it actually harder for some people to really understand what you guys are doing, because while it might seem simple for those that appreciate something a little bit more textured, and you were talking about floor being in the middle, I made it equivalent to a tapestry. She's a fabric within the tapestry. She's not someone who's stepping on the tapestry. So it kind of felt to me, the whole album feels like a tapestry.
That well,
And there's a song on this record that if you guys had released it as a single, I think would have been really brave, as you said before, and that is Sway. Uh,
ah.
it's my favorite song on the record. I felt so emotional listening to that. It's such a
Oh, wonderful.
beautiful song. I can understand why it wouldn't have been released as a single, but what's your feelings on a song, on a beautiful song like that?
Well, well, I feel like you, Pedro, about that song. I know it's Yukis, our bass player. It's his favorite song on the album as well, and it kind of came from left of field. You know, you wouldn't expect that song, that little song, to have such an impact. But I suppose again, it's context, isn't it? It's where it sits in the album. I think it's dead center in the middle of, and it's like the power of what's gone behind it, before it.
Mhm.
Kind of it settles, and then this thing comes in, this sway, and it's like very gentle in the harmonies, the sound of the two voices, the male and the female, are very, I think, quite unusual. Really, it's an unusual song, but I do love it. I love it, and I do love the sound. It's got a kind of late 60s psychedelia kind of thing
Yes,
to the, do you know
that
what I mean?
that's
It's like,
exactly what I said on my review. There's like some hints of psychedelic in the track, which
yeah,
I thought I
it's
was being a moron by even saying that, but I'm glad that I'm not. I'm glad that you.
no, the way the voices sound is very kind of, it's very late 60s folk. It's an early 70s. It's just the way it came out. But yeah, yeah, that's the vibe of
Yeah, it had a
that.
little bit like of a Jefferson Airplane sort of
Yeah,
feel to it,
yeah.
which which
Jefferson
which I
Airplane.
which I loved. I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. It's such a powerful song. The way the two voices kind of become part of that vocal tapestry. I don't think there's
Yeah,
any other track on the record that even remotely comes close to something like that.
true, I agree. And it's also got some beautiful, check next time you listen to the album, Pedro, check out the beautiful resonant fretless bass that Yukis plays on it. A fretless bass.
Is
I
that what
mean,
he used?
yeah, it's a fretless bass, and he hardly ever uses it. And I know he was really delighted to be using it because it was suggested, how about we try a fretless bass? He's like, I never dreamed of that. And he put it on, and it's just divine. Listen to it next time, you'll hear it. It's just sliding away beneath everything, and it's very beautiful.
I'll have to send him a message. He's a really good friend of mine. So is Kai,
Well,
and
tell him.
I'm gonna send him a message because I didn't know he used the fretless bass on that track. So I'm gonna send him a message.
He certainly did, and he played it gorgeously.
Wow, unbelievable. Now with this record in your hands, you guys already announced that there won't be any touring. Are you a little bit sad that you're not gonna have a chance to play some of these songs live? At least not for
Yeah,
now.
yeah, already. Well, this always happens anyway. After, it's like when you come to the end of a world tour, it's like, oh, thank goodness for that. You know, now I can lie around on my settee watching films and do nothing. And then it's like 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, when's the next show? You know, when are we going back out again? Here's my passport. I've got my passport. So it's awful. It's awful. But in this situation that we found ourselves in, we are we're so not burned out, but we're so in need of a good break. You know, we're so in need of it. There's lots and lots of reasons for that. But being tired is one of the top. You know, we did so much. The human nature tour, especially coming out of that awful pandemic as well, which scuppered, hit us psychologically. We were all ready to go out, and then we couldn't go out for 2 years effectively. So we had to have this break, um, as it says, for personal reasons. We do, but it's not by any means the end of the band. You know, we love it too much
That's what I was going to ask you. I don't know if you, I know you don't read comments and you stay away from the dark places on the internet, but but people are looking at this album, the sound on the album, the fact that it was the last piece of that trilogy, some of the themes on the record, and then the fact that there's no touring. People are like putting invisible dots together, and they're, and they're claiming that this is the end of Nightwish.
Well, it's not. So you tell them, Pedro. You tell them. No, it's not. So we've got so much more to give and so much more music to explore, and that's our whole raison d'être. Really, is to expand, develop, emotionally, uh, widen the spectrum of Nightwish. Even to your reference to Sway, I mean that's an expansion. Getting a fretless bass on a symphonic metal album, it's quite something. So we no, we don't intend to stop at this point. Even though we're now into our hiatus, we still can see that we will fly again.
That's good news for everybody watching this video. And by the way, for you, there's not much rest for the wicked because there's an Auri album coming out at some point in time. I know Kai is doing some drums on it.
He is.
So there's no rest for the wicked.
No, I'm extremely wicked because it's so mad at the moment for me. I'm off to Finland again this weekend to rehearse with my wonderful sister Johanna, who's the singer from Auri. We're doing a Christmas tour
Oh,
in
wow.
yeah, we're doing a Christmas tour, doing Christmas carols and old songs of Advent and stuff like that around churches in Finland in winter. Do you know how cold that's going to be, Pedro?
Yeah,
It's going to be
yeah.
bad.
I mean, I was just in Finland in August. I was in Helsinki and Tampere, and in August it was cold already. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like in December.
It's going to be a wonderful, balmy 22 below.
Well, but that's for us Canadians, that's normal actually. That's
Yeah,
great.
actually, yeah, you've seen it all. You've seen it all. But it's going to be fantastic. So we're rehearsing all next week, and then at the moment, Thomas and Johanna are working on Auri songs. I sent them my four. What we do is we each write four songs and we send them to each other, and we just dive into them and do what we do, what Auri does. So I still haven't got their songs. They're going to have to speed up, but I still haven't got their songs yet. But I'm sure I'll be hearing them this weekend. But yeah, so there's lots of stuff and the Auri tour, and who knows, we might end up in Canada. You could end up buying me a drink in Canada.
I would be more than happy. I would be more than happy. The last time you guys were here, I bought some drinks for Yuka and for Kai, and we got to hang out. Actually, the previous time that Yuka was here, they had a day off on the tour, and I took all the Winterson guys to Niagara Falls. I give them the big tour of Niagara
Excellent.
Falls. So if you come to town, drinks are on me.
Right, it's a deal. And
All right.
likewise, if you come to North Yorkshire, give me a shout.
I think there's less of a chance of that happening. But
Well, we'll see.
it would be lovely to see you guys in Canada playing some shows. You guys are
especially
over.
this especially this music, this music. That's the frustrating thing, is that this album is screaming to be played live. That's the most frustrating thing, but again, you've got to be realistic and you've got to stick by your decisions, and we are. But the length of the hiatus is open. We're not sure when we'll come back, but who knows, but we will.
You guys will come back stronger than ever, and this album will have a chance to simmer in people's minds and people's
Yeah,
ears. And I think when you
exactly.
guys come back, you probably have to do a tour where you play it from start to finish. In all honesty,
That would be a good idea.
I think
That's
you
a good
have to
idea.
because any song that you pluck out, it's almost not the same song as when you listen to
Yeah,
it in the context of the record. So I almost feel like you guys are going to be forced to do something like that.
that's a splendid idea. Right, I'll hold you to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it would be a great return from the
Yeah,
hiatus, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And let's
yeah,
face it, everybody's seen you guys multiple. I've seen you guys multiple times. So we've all heard our favorite songs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Listen to this record from start to finish. I think that would be such a great treat.
Splendid idea. Yeah, right, we'll do that.
Yeah, it's not Christmas carols in December in Finland, but you know what? It's pretty close.
It is. It is. It is. We'll
Close.
see how we get on with that. It's a great idea.
Troy, thank you very much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure and honor to speak with you about the record. All the best with your trip to Finland. Stay warm. Enjoy the sauna because I'm sure you're going to do some of that while you're there. It's a must. And take care of yourself.
It's been lovely to meet you, Pedro, and I'm sure we'll meet physically somewhere down the road for
Oh,
that nice beer.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. Take care.
Good
Bye.
man. Cheers, mate. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.